I was always apologizing, for laughing too loudly, or for not laughing enough, for asking questions, for crying, for breathing wrong. I once apologized for the way I cut a tomato. This is the memory that haunts me when I realized that I was becoming a ghost of myself, a victim of emotional abuse, and hadn't even noticed. That was never love. It was psychological abuse disguised as affection. Leon said I was hard to love, but never directly. Narcissists prefer poison in drops, not shots. He said that when I asked us to talk more, when I reached out, and he let mine fall into the air. He said this when I expressed any need. "You're awesome," he muttered, looking at me like I was made of shards. Very intense, very needy. No one could stand that, and I believed it. This is how manipulation works. It seeps into your spine and makes you thank for crumbs. I thought that if I loved better, quieter, sweeter, he would stop punishing me with the silent treatment. I spent days walking on eggshells, trying to guess what crime I committed this time. The silence was not empty. It was loud, like a scream muffled by walls that I couldn't get through. That was his control, the way he trained me, like a dog afraid of his own owner. He was charming with everyone. To my friends, he was a little intense, but charismatic. My parents adored him. This is how narcissistic abuse hides, right in front of everyone. He would praise me in public right after calling me dead weight in private. The contradiction made me dizzy. No ground. "Why are you so sensitive all the time?" he would say. "It doesn't dramatize." That was gaslighting. It made me doubt every tear, every instinct, every scream that never left my mouth. I once cried for 3 hours on the bathroom floor because he left in the middle of a conversation and turned off his cell phone. No explanation. No goodbye. Just an icy emptiness. When he returned, he acted as if I was crazy. "I just needed space," he said, annoyed. "You're choking me." I whispered that I loved him. I begged him not to do it again. "That was the worst moment," I pleaded. "That's what a toxic relationship does to you. It turns you into someone who apologizes for wanting to be loved." He controlled what I wore, who I was talking to. He said he was just taking care of myself when he deleted male contacts from my cell phone. He said I was exaggerating when I asked about the woman who texted him at midnight. "You're so insecure," he scoffed. "No one would have patience with this jealousy." But it wasn't jealousy. It was survival. And he was the one who crossed the line. Time after time. Had a dinner. I'll never forget it. I put on red lipstick. He hates red. And he spent the whole night ridiculing me in front of friends. "She tries so hard, right?" he said, laughing. "Poor thing." And I laughed along. This is how trauma takes root. I participated in my own humiliation as if it were a joke. Then, I got up, went to the bathroom of the restaurant, and cried with the mascara running down to my mouth. That was emotional abuse. It was psychological abuse. It was a narcissist destroying me little by little and calling it love. He once said, "I love the idea of you." Not me, the idea. A quiet, beautiful version that didn't ask for anything. I wasn't a person to him. I was a mirror. When I stopped reflecting on what he wanted to see, he broke me. "You've never been easy to love," he said after a fight. But he is the one who transformed love into a battlefield. I used manipulation and gaslighting until I no longer knew what was true. This is how narcissistic abuse traps you. You stop trusting your own memory. I was falling apart. I whispered to him one night, shaking. He turned to the side and turned off the light. "Your drama tires me." That was the end. Or maybe the end was well before that. Maybe it was the first day he made me feel that love was something I needed to deserve, with pain and silence. "You're very sensitive," he always said. No, I was just in a toxic relationship with a narcissist who needed to keep me small to feel big. I don't even know who I am anymore without the constant fear of saying the wrong thing. This is the trauma. That's what remains after the abuse ends. That's what control does. It robs you of yourself. I became a stranger so as not to arouse his anger. I called it love, but it was survival. And yet, sometimes I still hear his voice when I try to like myself. Perhaps this is the worst. I still wake up in the middle of the night with the feeling of being watched. There's no one in the room. I know that. But his presence remained. Not in the body, but in the mind. In the way I cringe before speaking. how I hesitate before texting, how I blame myself for everything, even when no one else is blaming me. I became the echo of what he planted. Sometimes I find myself checking the words 3, 4 times before sending a simple message, because he always said, "You talk too much," or "You just complicate everything." Now I am silent even inside my own head. This is the result of prolonged psychological abuse. You censor yourself before someone else has to do it for you. There was one time, during a work meeting, that my boss raised his voice. It wasn't me, but my whole body froze. My stomach turned. I wasn't there. I was back in the room with Leon, listening to him break a glass because I didn't understand anything, because making him repeat it was torture. The memory came back like a slap. This is trauma. That's what a toxic relationship leaves. Reflexes that you no longer control. And you know what's crueler? He convinced me that I was the narcissist. He threw these words like blades disguised as diagnoses. He said I was manipulative when I cried, that I used emotions to control him, that I gaslighted when I questioned the contradictory versions he told. I started to believe. I went to research narcissism, trying to understand if the problem was mine. This is what emotional abuse does. It scrambles reality so much that the victim begins to see himself as the aggressor. He said that I ruined everything with my way, that no one could stand someone so difficult. I carried that as a sentence. Today I see, he needed me to hate myself, because someone who loves himself does not accept this kind of control. He broke me in the name of a love that only existed when I was submissive. I remember one particular night. There was a family party. I wore a dress that he said he liked. I did everything right. I stood by him, laughed at his jokes, served his dish. And yet, in the car back, he said I embarrassed him, that I said too much, that no one could stand me. And then, silence. The famous silent treatment. 3 days. 3 days of total indifference. Without a word, without a look. I begged him to tell me what I did. He said only, "You're exhausting. You're hard to love." But I've never been hard to love. I was just hard to control, and he confused the two things. The truth is that he didn't love me. Narcissists don't love. They dominate, manipulate, shape. They make you feel special only to then take it away from you as punishment. Narcissistic abuse is cyclical. It starts with compliments, passes to control, plunges into emotional abuse, and ends with an apology that feels like love, until it starts all over again. And you stay, because it is stuck with the first compliment. The first time he said, "No one understands you like I do." You stay because you think you can recover that. But that never existed. He didn't love me. He got me hooked. It wasn't love. It was an emotional trap. Today, I try to rebuild myself. Each gesture of self-care feels like an act of rebellion. Listening to my intuition seems dangerous, because I have been taught to ignore it. But I'm trying, still afraid. His voice is still swirling in my thoughts, but trying. There are days when I still wonder, was he right? And that's when I realize how much trauma still lives inside. There are days when I look in the mirror and hear his voice louder than mine. He said that my face was ordinary, that my body was okay, but that I should take care of myself more, and that my way of speaking was annoying. "You talk like you're always complaining," he said. Now, even when I'm alone, I hear these phrases. They stuck to me like cigarette smell on clean clothes. That's what emotional abuse leaves. A cracked mirror where you only see what he said. Once I spent almost an hour choosing an outfit to go to the market. Because I was afraid that I was drawing too much attention. Because he convinced me that any choice of mine was a reason for criticism. "Who do you want to appear to?" He said this even when I put on a light lipstick. The manipulation was so subtle, so constant, that after a while I was already ahead of the trial. I hid myself before he said anything. This is the control that a narcissist exerts. He no longer needs to speak. The victim already regulates himself. One day, he read my messages with a friend. He found something suggestive in a completely banal conversation. He accused me of flirting, yelled, locked me in the room with him for hours, forcing me to explain every sentence. I cried, trembled, apologized. "You're welcome." And he only let me go when he saw that I was broken. "I only do it because I love you so much," he said. It was on that day that I understood how much I was trapped in a toxic relationship, but I still haven't been able to get out. The cruelest thing about narcissistic abuse is that it destroys you slowly, but always with a veneer of love. You begin to doubt your own pain, to think, am I exaggerating? Am I weak? Am I really hard to love? And he reinforced that all the time, with small punishments. He ignored my messages for hours or days. He kept me waiting while he talked to the others. He made promises, and then pretended that I had misunderstood. That's gaslighting. He twisted reality until I doubted my own memory. There was a day when he said to me, looking into my eyes, "You're the problem. It always has been. You ruin everything you touch." And I believed it, because he trained me for that. Narcissists don't hit. They mold. They sculpt the trauma with words, silences, contempt. He emptied me, and then called me empty. He took me away from everyone, and then said that no one wanted me around. This is psychological abuse, and it does not leave visible marks, but leaves the soul in pieces. He said he loved me, but he was amused to see me doubt myself. He fed on my fear, on my constant effort to please him, and I thought that was intense love, when in fact it was pure destruction. You weren't intense. You were cruel. I wasn't difficult. I was trying to survive. Today, I walk carefully. Each new relationship seems like a minefield. I still apologize too much. I still stay silent to avoid conflict. I still blame myself when someone walks away, even if it's not my fault. This is trauma. It is the echo of narcissistic abuse that reverberates even when the person has already left. But what hurts the most is not remembering what he did. It's realizing that sometimes I still miss him. That's it. That's what scares me the most. I don't miss what he did. I miss the illusion he created, the way he looked at me in the beginning, as if I was unique, rare, tailor-made to fill some void inside him, as if he saw me in a way that no one else did. But now I understand. That wasn't love. It was bait. It was the golden trap, where all narcissistic abuse begins. Narcissists know exactly how to charm. They tell you what you've always wanted to hear. She called me the most amazing woman I've ever met. He said he had never felt something so intense, and I believed it. Of course I did. When he chose me, I felt special. But today I see, he didn't choose me for who I was. He chose me because he knew he could break me. He did it sweetly at first. It was protection, excessive care, concern for our connection. Soon, it became control. It soon became, you talk too much with your colleagues. This friend of yours is a bad influence. You don't have to go out that much. If you really loved me, I would have no secrets. Every sentence sounded logical, until I had no one else around but him. And even then, I was still unbearable. There was a night when I woke up from a nightmare crying. I tried to wake him up, desperate, shaking, just wanting a hug. He opened his eyes, snorted, turned to the side and said, "Not even sleeping, you give me peace." I sat on the bed, silently, feeling my heart break inside my chest. I was no longer a woman. It was a nuisance, a weight, a nuisance that breathed on his side. After that night, I vowed never to bother him again, never ask for affection again, never expect empathy again. It was there that I understood. I was surviving in a place where love was used as a weapon. This is emotional abuse. That's what a toxic relationship does. It teaches you that your suffering bothers you, that your feelings are exaggerated, that your needs are flawed, and you learn to shut up so you won't be abandoned. You learn to accept crumbs so you don't get called ungrateful. He told me, "You're always sad. That's why it's hard to love you." But he was the cause of the sadness that he used as a justification to reject me. That's what narcissistic abuse does. He hurts you, and then tells you that you are the reason for the injury. He empties you, and then complains about your emptiness. And you, as a victim, try to compensate. He tries to fill the space, tries to smile more, to please more, to be more silent, until there's nothing left of you. And when it goes away, or when you finally get out, it's not immediate release. It's silence, a different silence from the one he used to punish you. This is the silence of reconstruction, of mourning for a lie that you called love. Today, I still tremble at the thought of falling in love again. I still wonder if I'm being difficult, too much, unbearable. I still have to remember every single day that loving doesn't hurt that way. He didn't destroy me with screams. He destroyed me with absence. He made me feel that my pain was the reason for abandonment. And now, even free, I still carry the guilt for having loved someone so much that I only knew how to erase myself. Maybe one day I will be able to love without fear, but today, I still hear his voice in the back of my head, and she still looks taller than mine. There are days when I feel strong. Others, I can't even get out of bed. It's weird, because everybody says, you got rid of him, now it's a new beginning. But no one talks about the aftermath, about how the body still waits for the impact, about how the mind still bows to fear, even without a threat present. The toxic relationship may be over, but the narcissistic abuse continues to echo within me. I freed myself from his presence. But what about programming? He trained me to hate me. He taught me that affection comes with conditions, that love is something that is earned and not something that is received, that being loved depends on how much you can stand in silence. There was a day, just before the end, when I tried to say that I was not well, that he didn't recognize me anymore. I sat with him on the couch, trembling courage in my hands, and said, I'm getting lost here. I'm not happy. He looked at me with contempt. He didn't even scream. He didn't even argue. He just got up and left. 2 days of silent treatment. No explanation. No message. It was as if I had spoken in another language. As if my feelings were inconvenient noises. That was the final blow. The certainty that my pain never mattered to him. This is psychological abuse. It's not the punches that leave scars. It's the neglect. It is the empty look of someone who sees you suffer and feels nothing. It is constant abandonment, disguised as self-care. It's gaslighting that makes you doubt the obvious. That love is not that. That shouldn't be it. He said he was sincere, that it was only being real. But the truth is that narcissists use sincerity as a weapon. You're weak. You make up problems. You'll never be enough for anyone. Today I see. He didn't talk about me. He projected his own emptiness. I was the mirror where he poured out all the pain he refused to feel. And it made me believe that it was all mine. I kept all the versions of me that he destroyed. The woman who spoke loudly. That she dressed up for herself. That he laughed without measuring the volume. All these parts of me were being swallowed by this toxic relationship, day after day, as if I was erasing myself inside. I wasn't hard to love. I was easy to hurt. And he knew it. Narcissists have a cruel nose for recognizing potential victims. He knew exactly where to poke. I knew I really wanted to be loved, that I carried old wounds, and he used each one as an input for control, manipulation, emotional domination. Today, I try to relearn how to exist, walking without fear of footsteps, speaking without apologizing, to like myself without guilt. But there are still days when I hear his voice when I choose an outfit. There are still nights when I find myself rehearsing responses to attacks that will no longer happen. There's still a side of me that blames itself for everything, as if it's still here, hidden behind my skin. I came out of the cage, but the cage is still inside me. It wasn't the end that destroyed me. It was all I needed to kill in myself to stay there. And that's what no one sees. It's not just about surviving the narcissist. It's outliving who you've become because of him. Sometimes I wonder if I'll ever be able to love again without hiding, without mincing words, without observing reactions before feeling, because that's how he conditioned me, to live in a state of alertness, to edit me, becoming a bearable version. He said that it was to work, that it was to keep the peace, but his peace was my silence. His comfort was my submission. That wasn't love. It was control, constant manipulation. It was emotional abuse disguised as a mature relationship. I still remember the way he looked at me when I disagreed with him on something small, like I was betraying his trust just by having an opinion of my own. He didn't scream right away. He just froze. He moved away, and it left me imploding alone. And then he came with a calculated speech. I only walk away because you hurt me with that way. You force arguments that lead nowhere. You distort everything. Gaslighting. Pure, corrosive, constant. After a while, I didn't even know what was real anymore. I asked, did I really say that? Am I exaggerating? Am I unstable? And when you start to doubt your own memory, your own perception, the narcissist has won. That's what he did to me. It reduced me to a ghost, a fragmented version of who I was. I remember one Saturday afternoon. We were in the car. I just wanted to tell you some good news. A compliment I received at work. A small acknowledgement, but one that made me happy. He was silent. Then he said, you should stop showing off. These things don't impress anyone. That sentence erased me inside. There I understood. It didn't matter what I did. Being happy without him was unforgivable. That's the game. Destroy you emotionally, and then make you feel guilty for any glimmer of joy. That's what narcissistic abuse does. It isolates you from yourself. And I fell, in each trap, because he knew how to look regretful. I knew when to say I'm sorry, and when to hold my face and look me right in the eyes, saying I was going to change. It has never changed. He only changed the ways to hurt me. 1 hour it was silence, another sarcasm. Other times, it was naked cruelty. No one will put up with you for long. You get tired even when you breathe. If it weren't for me, you'd be alone. Words spoken calmly, as if they were obvious truths, like you're doing me a favor by staying, as if I were the crazy one grateful for his presence. And I believed it, because trauma has a quiet way of seeming logical. Today, I'm learning to separate his voice from mine, but I still confuse it. When I receive a compliment, I am still suspicious. When someone treats me with affection, I still wait for the charge to come soon after. When a man is kind, my first reaction is fear. Fear of falling again, to lose myself again. This is the legacy of a toxic relationship. It doesn't end in goodbye. It keeps repeating itself inside you. He destroyed my self-esteem in silence, with small gestures and phrases that no one would hear as abuse. I was diminished until I fit in his ego pocket. And now, everything in me tries to rebuild itself, but it's slow. It's lonely, and no one sees it, because those who look from the outside only see the woman who survived. They don't see the woman who still struggles every day to remember that she deserves to exist. And to exist, after narcissistic abuse, is the most quietly painful act I've ever experienced. It's waking up every day trying to believe that I deserve something good, that I am not difficult, unbearable, insecure, needy, words that he used as weapons, like invisible tattoos that he wrote on me, until I myself started to repeat them without realizing it. I learned to watch myself, to think twice before speaking, analyzing the tone of my voice, the position of my body, the content of each sentence. All this so as not to provoke a reaction from him, a look of contempt, a gasp of boredom, the icy silence that lasted for days. The famous silent treatment, where the punishment was to make me disappear into a relationship where I no longer existed. You learn to be silent not out of peace, but out of fear. He looked at me as if he was constantly disappointed, like I'm never good enough. And when I questioned him, he turned the tables with surgical coldness. You always want to be the victim. You distort everything I say. You just feel it too much. That's not my fault. That was the manipulation. Gaslighting. Emotional deconstruction made of small daily cracks. And deep down, what hurt the most was not what he said, but what he made me say to myself. Maybe I really am awesome. Maybe he's right. Maybe I just need to improve a little more. I was never good enough because he never wanted me to be. After all, if I felt whole, he would lose control. And the narcissist needs to have control. He needs you to depend on his affection. That affection that comes with an expiration date and implied conditions. An affection that can be withdrawn at any time, as a punishment. I lost friendships because he said that they influenced me badly. I moved away from my family because they only cause stress. I changed my way of dressing, of speaking, of dreaming, until everything in me molded itself to what he wanted. And yet, it was not enough. There was a day when I got sick. Fever, body pain, no strength to get up. I sent him a message asking him to come here, just to bring me some medicine. He visualized. He did not answer. Hours later, he posted a photo at the bar with friends. The next day, she appeared saying, "I am not a nanny for a weak woman." That phrase never left my head, not because of what he said, but because, even after that, I still apologized. I apologized for having charged too much, by expecting something he couldn't give. This is trauma. That's what emotional abuse does. You start to blame yourself for expecting the least. Today, I'm trying to rebuild this woman, to take care of herself, the one who spoke firmly, the one who smiled without fear of being judged. But it is buried under so many layers of pain that sometimes I doubt if it ever really existed. He didn't love me. He undid me. And now, loving myself is a daily struggle against everything he taught me to believe. I still hear his voice in my silences, in my retreats, in my insecurity. And the cruelest part is that even knowing that he was the narcissist. Sometimes I still miss the way he made me feel in the beginning. That's the poison. He enters slowly, and it takes a lifetime to get out. But he doesn't come back. And even if he did, he would never bring back who I was before him. The truth is that I died in small pieces. I died every time I had to swallow a cry so as not to be called dramatic. Every time I stopped telling something for fear of the reaction. Each time I accepted the minimum with gratitude. Every time I mistook crumbs for love. Every time I smile with my face burning inside. And now I'm here, alive, but patched up, trying to remember what it was like to live without fear, trying to relearn the sound of my own voice without the echo of his, trying to take up space in the world without apologizing for it. There are days when I can. Others, I only survive. I carry everything. The trauma, the longing, the shame, the mourning of what I dreamed it would be. But I also carry a spark. Weak, shy, but alive. The spark of those who know, deep down, that they deserved more. Of those who will one day look in the mirror and see someone whole. Of those who will love one day without fear, without chains, without open wounds. For now, I keep walking, one step at a time, my feet still bleeding. But I follow, because if he destroyed me in silence, I'm going to rebuild myself out loud, even if no one understands, even if it still hurts, even if deep down, a part of me still whispers, will I ever go back to who I was? And the answer comes slowly but steadily from within me. No, I'm going to be so much more than he ever allowed me to be.